Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her back against the cold metal wall of the underground bunker. Above her head, the ceiling shook as another explosion rocked the research station. Dust fell like snow, covering her dark hair and the laptop she clutched in her trembling hands. "How many ships did you count?" she asked Marcus, her research assistant. The young man was barely 25, fresh out of university on Earth. He had come to Kepler 442b to study alien plant life, not to die in a war. "At least 30, Marcus whispered back. "Maybe more. They're huge, Dr. Chen. Each one is the size of a city block." Sarah looked around the bunker at the other survivors. 23 people total, scientists, engineers, a few security guards. They were all that remained of the 300 humans who had called this world home just 6 hours ago. The first ships had appeared without warning. No communication, no demands, no explanation. They simply began firing on everything humans had built. The main research facility was gone within minutes. The living quarters followed. The power plant, the communication array, the landing pad where their supply ships docked, all destroyed with cold efficiency. Dr. Chen called Elena from across the bunker. She was their communications expert, one of the few who had managed to grab essential equipment before running. "I've got the emergency transmitter working, but I don't know how long the signal will last." Sarah crawled across the concrete floor to Elena's position. The woman had jury-rigged a distress beacon using parts from 3 different systems. "It wasn't pretty, but it might work. What's our range?" Sarah asked. "Maybe 20 light years on a good day," Elena replied. "But the interference from whatever weapons they're using up there is making everything harder." Another explosion, closer this time. The lights flickered and went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red light. "Send the signal," Sarah ordered. "Send it to everyone. Earth, the Zephyrian Council, the Crystalline Hegemony, anyone who will listen." Elena's fingers flew over the makeshift controls. What should I say? Sarah closed her eyes and thought. What could she say? How do you explain in a few words that an entire human colony was being wiped out by aliens they had never seen before? "This is Kepler 442b Research Station," she began. Elena recorded her words and prepared to broadcast them. "We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. 30 or more large vessels are systematically destroying all human settlements. We have minimal defenses and no military support. Our population has been reduced from 300 to less than 25. We need immediate assistance. Any assistance. Please, if anyone receives this message, we are going to die here." Sarah's voice broke on the last words. Elena squeezed her shoulder and activated the transmission. The signal began repeating, sent out into the cold darkness of space. Above ground, the alien ships continued their work. They moved with mechanical precision, targeting anything that looked human-made. Their weapons were unlike anything in the galactic databases. Beams of purple energy that turned metal into vapor and stone into glass. The beings inside the ships called themselves the Vorthak. They had been conquering worlds for over 1,000 years. To them, this was just another routine cleanup operation. Humans were young, weak, and spread thin across too many worlds. Easy targets. The Vorthak commander studied the readings from his ship's sensors. All major structures were destroyed. Life signs were minimal. Soon this world would be ready for Vorthak colonization. "Commander," his subordinate reported, "we're detecting a transmission from underground. The remaining humans appear to be calling for help." The commander made a sound that might have been laughter in his throat. "Let them call. No one will come. No one ever comes." He was right based on everything the Vorthak knew about galactic politics. Most species were too afraid to fight them. Others were too smart to waste ships and lives on lost causes. In the Zephyrian Council chambers 300 light-years away, the distress signal arrived during an emergency session. The tall blue-skinned beings listened to Sarah's desperate plea with solemn expressions. "The humans on Kepler 442b are requesting military assistance," announced Counselor Zethka. "The Vorthak have apparently found another of their colonies." The council chamber fell silent. Everyone knew about the Vorthak. Everyone feared them. "What is our current assessment of human military capability?" asked the Prime Counselor. "Minimal," replied the military advisor. "Their ships are crude but functional. They have some defensive capabilities, but nothing that could stand against a Vorthak war fleet. Intelligence suggests they have perhaps 50 combat-capable vessels in their entire fleet." "And the Vorthak brought how many ships to this attack?" "At least 30, possibly more. The Prime Counselor closed his large, dark eyes. Then those humans are already dead. We cannot risk Zephyrian lives for a battle that cannot be won. Send our regrets. Similar conversations took place across the galaxy. The crystalline hegemony performed mathematical calculations that showed a 0.23% chance of successful intervention. The Aquatic Federation cited their ship's inability to function in the atmosphere of Kepler 442b. The Trade Alliance pointed out that humans were not yet full members and therefore not entitled to military protection. One by one, every major galactic power reached the same conclusion. The humans on Kepler 442b were on their own. In the bunker, Sarah and her team waited. The attacks had stopped an hour ago, but they could still hear the alien ships moving overhead. Massive engines that made the ground vibrate. Any responses to our signal? Sarah asked Elena. Elena shook her head sadly. Nothing yet. But it takes time for signals to reach other systems, and more time for ships to get here even if they wanted to help. Marcus looked up from where he was treating an injured security guard. Do you think anyone will come? Sarah wanted to lie to give him hope, but she was a scientist, trained to deal in facts and evidence. I don't know, Marcus. I honestly don't know. Young Tommy, barely 18 and the son of one of the engineers, spoke up from the corner. My dad always said Earth never abandons its people. He said if we ever needed help, really needed help, Earth would find a way. The adults exchanged glances. Tommy's father had died in the first wave of attacks. The boy was clinging to faith because it was all he had left. Maybe your dad was right, Sarah said gently. Maybe Earth will surprise us. She didn't believe it herself. Earth was far away, and the human military was small compared to the great galactic powers. If the Zephyrians and Crystallines wouldn't help, what could Earth possibly do? Outside, the Vorthak ships continued their patrol. They had done this hundreds of times before. Wipe out the existing population, clear the infrastructure, prepare for colonization. It was efficient. It was profitable, and no one had ever successfully opposed them. The Vorthak commander was already making plans for the ground assault that would eliminate the remaining humans in their underground hideout. By tomorrow, Kepler 442b would be another Vorthak victory. He had no way of knowing that Sarah's desperate signal was already racing through space at the speed of light, carrying her words toward distant worlds. He couldn't know that in the Sol system, alarms were beginning to sound in military command centers, and he certainly couldn't imagine what was about to answer the call. Admiral Marcus Rivera stood in the command center of Luna Station, staring at the holographic display that showed the incoming distress signal. The message from Dr. Sarah Chen played for the third time, her desperate voice echoing through the silent room. How long ago was this transmitted? Rivera asked his communications officer. Signal originated 14 hours ago, sir. Travel time from Kepler 442b puts the attack at approximately 18 hours past. Rivera was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his days as a ship engineer. He had fought in the border wars 20 years ago, back when humanity thought their biggest threat was pirates and smugglers. He knew better now. Current status of our rapid response fleet? He asked. Captain Jessica Torres, his aide, consulted her tablet. 57 ships ready for immediate deployment, sir. That includes 12 heavy cruisers, 28 destroyers, 15 support vessels, and 2 mobile platforms. 2? Rivera raised an eyebrow. I thought Retribution was still in dry dock. She finished trials yesterday, sir. All systems green. Rivera nodded slowly. The UES Retribution was humanity's newest and largest military vessel. Most of the galaxy didn't know it existed yet. Earth's leaders preferred to keep their capabilities quiet. Sir, interrupted Lieutenant Hayes from the intelligence station, we're receiving data from our deep space monitoring network. 34 confirmed Vorthak vessels in the Kepler 442 system. Standard attack pattern. Systematic destruction of infrastructure. Rivera had studied every report about the Vorthak for the past 5 years. They were the nightmare that kept military planners awake at night. An aggressive species that had conquered dozens of worlds, each time following the same pattern. Attack without warning, destroy everything, claim the planet. What's the response from other galactic powers? He asked. Hayes looked uncomfortable. The Zephyrian Council has declined to intervene. The crystalline hegemony states the mission has insufficient probability of success. The Aquatic Federation cites environmental incompatibility. Trade Alliance says humans aren't full members yet. In other words, Rivera said grimly, we're on our own. Yes, sir. Rivera walked to the main display and studied the tactical information. Kepler 442b was 37 light-years from Earth. Even with humanity's fastest ships, it would take almost a week to get there. The colonists might not have a week. Captain Torres, send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them I'm invoking Article 7 of the Colonial Protection Act. Torres looked shocked. Article 7 hadn't been used since the Charter Wars 50 years ago. It gave field commanders broad authority to use any means necessary to protect human civilians. Sir, are you sure? Article 7 authorizes. I know what it authorizes, Captain. Send the message. Within minutes, Rivera's authorization was confirmed. Across the solar system, military bases received the same order. All available ships to rendezvous at Luna Station immediately. Emergency protocols activated. Full combat loadout authorized. The alien observers stationed in the outer solar system to monitor human activity noticed the unusual ship movements first. The Zephyrian spy vessel Hidden Current detected massive energy signatures moving throughout the system. Commander, reported the Zephyrian sensor operator, the humans appear to be mobilizing their entire military fleet. Commander Velcorin studied the data with interest. Interesting. They must have received the distress signal from their colony world. How many vessels are they deploying? Unknown, sir. We're detecting at least 60 distinct energy signatures, but some of them are unusual. Unusual how? The power readings don't match our profiles of human ships, sir. Some of these vessels are generating energy levels comparable to our own heavy cruisers. Velcorin frowned. That couldn't be right. Human ships were notoriously inefficient, built with crude fusion reactors and basic shielding. Their largest vessel on record was barely half the size of a Zephyrian light cruiser. Double-check those readings, he ordered. Already done, sir. The readings are correct. And, sir, there's something else. One of the energy signatures is unlike anything in our database. It's massive. In the asteroid belt, the mining station crew watched in amazement as ships began dropping out of hyperspace. The first arrivals were the destroyers and cruisers from the Mars fleet. Then came the deep space patrol ships from the Jupiter sector. Finally, the heavy vessels from the Saturn defensive grid. But the ship that made everyone stop and stare was the UES Retribution. She was over 2 kilometers long, her hull bristling with weapon arrays that had never been tested in real combat. Most people had heard rumors about humanity's secret shipbuilding program, but seeing the result was something else entirely. Admiral Rivera transferred his flag to the Retribution 6 hours after the initial mobilization order. As he stepped onto the bridge, he could feel the power humming through the ship's systems. This vessel represented 20 years of human engineering and military planning. It was time to find out if their efforts had been worth it. Fleet status report, he ordered as he settled into the command chair. 57 vessels ready for hyperspace jump. Sir, reported Commander Sarah Park, the Retribution's captain. All ships report full combat readiness. Rivera opened a communication channel to the entire fleet. This is Admiral Rivera to all ships. 18 hours ago, our people on Kepler 442b sent out a desperate call for help. They're facing an enemy that has destroyed dozens of worlds. Every other major power in the galaxy has refused to help them. They think this is a fight we can't win. He paused, looking out at the stars through the bridge viewport. Somewhere out there, Dr. Chen and her people were hiding in the dark, waiting for rescue that might never come. They're wrong, Rivera continued. Today we show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens human civilians. Today we show them that Earth never abandons its own. Fleet will jump in formation to Kepler 442b. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. Any vessel that fires on human targets is to be destroyed without mercy. The response came from 57 ships simultaneously. Understood, sir. Rivera nodded to Commander Park. Initiate hyperspace jump. Space twisted around the fleet as they entered hyperspace. To outside observers, the ships simply vanished, leaving only empty space and fading energy signatures. On the Zephyrian spy ship, Commander Velcorin stared at his sensors in disbelief. They actually did it. The humans are going to fight the Vorthak. Should we report this to the Council, sir? His communications officer asked. Yes, but mark it as low priority, Velcorin replied. The humans will be slaughtered within hours of arriving. This will be over quickly. He was wrong about that. Very wrong. The human fleet raced through hyperspace toward Kepler 442b, their ships loaded with weapons the galaxy had never seen. In the deepest sections of the Retribution, technicians made final checks on systems so advanced that most of Earth's allies would have called them impossible. Admiral Rivera stood on his bridge, watching the hyperspace tunnel flow around his fleet. In his pocket was a message from the President of Earth, authorizing him to use any force necessary to rescue the colonists. He intended to do exactly that. The Vorthak had no idea what was coming for them. The Vorthak patrol ship Dreadhunter was the first to detect the hyperspace disturbance. Commander Thekmore had been expecting this moment for days. Sometimes other species sent token forces to rescue their people, usually a few ships that the Vorthak could destroy for target practice. Analysis of incoming vessels? Thekmore asked his sensor operator. 57 ships, Commander. Unknown configuration. Energy signatures are strange. Strange how? They don't match any known species in our database, sir. The power levels are higher than expected for most galactic navies. Thekmore activated the communication system to contact the main fleet. Command Vessel Black Talon, this is Dreadhunter. We have incoming ships. Looks like someone is actually going to try rescuing the humans. The response came from War Commander Grixnal, leader of the Vorthak fleet. How many ships? 57 confirmed. A pause. That's more than usual. Are they Zephyrian? Negative, sir. Unknown species, possibly the humans themselves. Laughter echoed through the communication channel. Humans? Their entire military couldn't fill a cargo bay on one of our ships. This should be entertaining. All vessels prepare for combat. Let's show the galaxy what happens to those who challenge the Vorthak. 34 Vorthak warships began moving into attack formation. Each vessel was over 800 meters long, armed with weapons that had shattered the defenses of dozens of worlds. They had never lost a battle. That was about to change. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace in a perfect battle formation. Admiral Rivera stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching as his ships spread out in a pattern that had been practiced countless times in simulations. Tactical report, he ordered. 34 enemy vessels. Sir, reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson at the tactical station. Standard Vorthak configuration. They're moving to engage us. Rivera opened a channel to Dr. Chen's emergency frequency. He doubted she could hear him through all the interference, but he had to try. Dr. Chen, this is Admiral Rivera of the Earth Fleet. If you can hear this message, stay underground. We're here to help. In the bunker on Kepler 44E2b, Sarah Chen nearly dropped her water bottle when the voice crackled through Elena's jury-rigged radio. Did you hear that? Elena whispered, adjusting the frequency. Earth Fleet? Marcus said in disbelief. They actually came? Sarah felt tears running down her cheeks. Someone had heard their call for help. Someone had actually come. Above the planet, the two fleets approached each other. The Vorthak ships looked like massive black daggers, their hulls covered in weapon ports and armor plating. The human ships looked different, less elegant perhaps, but more purposeful, built for function rather than intimidation. War Commander Grixnal studied the human fleet with professional interest. Scan their vessels. I want to know what we're dealing with. Scanning now, sir, replied his intelligence officer. Commander, these readings are unusual. Their largest vessel is generating power levels equivalent to our heavy cruisers. Impossible. Human technology is primitive. Sir, I'm detecting weapon signatures we don't recognize, and their ship formations. They're not random. This is a coordinated fleet with advanced tactical positioning. Grixnal frowned. Perhaps these humans were more advanced than intelligence reports suggested. No matter. The Vorthak had superior numbers and combat experience. All ships advance and engage. Target their largest vessel first. The Vorthak fleet moved forward, weapons charging. Purple energy crackled along their gun barrels as targeting systems locked onto the human ships. Admiral Rivera watched the enemy approach on his tactical display. All ships, this is Rivera. Weapons free. Show them what Earth brings to a fight. The first exchange of fire lit up the darkness of space like a star going nova. The Vorthak opened with their standard tactic. Concentrated energy beams designed to overload enemy shields and hull armor. Purple streams of destructive force lanced out toward the human fleet. They never reached their targets. The human ships had shields, but they were unlike anything the Vorthak had ever encountered. Instead of energy barriers, they projected fields of charged particles that absorbed and dispersed incoming fire. The Vorthak beams scattered, harmlessly against them. Then the humans fired. backed the U.S. retributions. Main guns were railgun arrays, magnetic accelerators, that fired tungsten slugs at 12% of light speed. The projectiles were small, no larger than a man's fist, but they carried the kinetic energy of nuclear weapons. The first salvo from the human fleet struck 3 Vorthak ships simultaneously. The tungsten slugs punched through their shields like they weren't there, then through their armor, then through their hulls. The ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. War Commander Grixnall stared at his tactical display in shock. 3 ships destroyed in the first exchange. In over 1,000 years of Vorthak expansion, that had never happened. Return fire, he shouted. All ships concentrate on their flagship. The Vorthak fleet launched everything they had at the retribution. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, kinetic missiles. Every weapon in their arsenal focused on the massive human ship. Admiral Rivera watched the incoming fire with calm eyes. Point defense systems engage. The space around the retribution filled with defensive fire. Laser arrays shot down incoming missiles. Particle beams vaporized plasma torpedoes. The few weapons that got through were absorbed by the ship's revolutionary shield systems. Sir, reported Commander Park. Minor fluctuations in shield strength. No damage. Rivera nodded and opened a channel to the entire human fleet. All ships advance. Let's finish this. The human fleet moved forward like a pack of wolves. Their weapons fired in coordinated volleys, each shot precisely targeted. The Vorthak ships, designed for battles against conventional energy weapons, had no defense against solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. One by one, the black ships began to explode. In the bunker, Sarah and her team listened to the sounds of battle overhead. The ground shook with each explosion, but this time it was different. This time the sounds were moving away from the colony. They're winning, Tommy whispered in amazement. Earth is actually winning. On his ship, War Commander Grixnall watched his fleet die. Half his ships were gone, and the humans hadn't lost a single vessel. Their weapons were unlike anything he had faced, crude-looking but devastatingly effective. Commander, his tactical officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through. Admiral Rivera's voice filled the Vorthak command bridge, speaking in perfect galactic standard. This is Admiral Rivera to the Vorthak fleet. You have attacked human civilians. You have destroyed human property. You will withdraw immediately or be destroyed. This is your only warning. Grixnall felt something he had never experienced in battle. Fear. But Vorthak pride was stronger than fear. Human Admiral, you face the might of the Vorthak Empire. We do not retreat. We do not surrender. Then you will die, Rivera replied simply. The human fleet opened fire again. This time they didn't hold back. The Retribution's secondary weapons joined the attack. Energy beams that made the Vorthak weapons look like flashlights, missile systems that launched swarms of guided projectiles, and something the Vorthak couldn't identify at all. The remaining Vorthak ships lasted less than 3 minutes. As the last enemy vessel exploded in a ball of fire, the human fleet spread out across the system. Rescue ships headed for the planet's surface while the warships maintained patrol patterns. Admiral Rivera opened the channel to Dr. Chen again. Dr. Chen, this is Admiral Rivera. The enemy fleet has been destroyed. Medical teams and engineers are en route to your position. You're safe now. In the bunker, Sarah Chen sat in stunned silence. They had done it. Earth had actually done it. A human fleet had defeated the mighty Vorthak in open battle. How is this possible? Elena whispered. Sarah smiled through her tears. I don't know, but I'm grateful. Above them, human ships filled the sky. The rescue of Kepler 442b had begun. And across the galaxy, intelligence services began frantically updating their files on human military capabilities. The species they had dismissed as primitive and weak had just accomplished what no other civilization had managed in over 1,000 years. They had defeated the Vorthak in open battle, and they had made it look easy. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. In council chambers, military headquarters, and intelligence centers throughout known space, beings who had dismissed humanity as a minor power began to reassess everything they thought they knew. On the crystalline hegemony homeworld, Prime Calculator Xerion 99 reviewed the battle data for the 5th time. The mathematical models were clear, but the conclusions seemed impossible. Confirmation of Vorthak fleet destruction? Xerion 99 asked his subordinates. Confirmed, Prime Calculator. 34 Vorthak vessels eliminated with 0 human losses. Battle duration 18 minutes 47 seconds. Impossible. Run the calculations again. Already done, sir. The results are consistent. The humans achieved a 34-0 kill ratio against the Vorthak, using weapons we cannot identify. Xerion 99's crystalline form flickered with confusion. According to their intelligence files, humanity possessed perhaps 50 combat-capable vessels total. Yet they had deployed 57 ships to this one battle. Either their intelligence was completely wrong, or Earth had been hiding its true military strength for decades. In Zephyrian space, Commander Velkorin of the spy vessel Hidden Current was frantically transmitting reports back to his superiors. His ship's sensors had recorded the entire battle, and the data was terrifying. "Council Command, this is Hidden Current," he reported. "The humans didn't just defeat the Vorthak. They hunted them. Their weapons appear to bypass conventional shielding entirely, and their largest vessel. Council Command, I'm reading power signatures that rival our capital ships." The response came from Admiral Keth Zor, Supreme Commander of the Zephyrian Fleet. "Are you certain of these readings, Commander?" "Absolutely certain, sir. But there's more. After the battle, the human ships began salvage operations. They're not just destroying Vorthak vessels, they're studying them. And sir, I'm detecting construction activity. The humans appear to be building something in the debris field." Meanwhile, in the bunker on Kepler 442b, Dr. Sarah Chen and her survivors were experiencing their first contact with the human rescue teams. The soldiers who rappelled down through the bunker's emergency shaft were unlike anything she had expected. "Dr. Chen," asked the lead soldier, removing his helmet to reveal a weathered face and kind eyes. "I'm Captain Rodriguez, 15th Marine Rescue Division." "Are you injured?" "No, we're alive," Sarah stammered. "How many ships did you bring?" 57 for the initial response, ma'am. More on the way." "Initial response?" Elena spoke up from behind Sarah. "You mean this wasn't your full fleet?" Captain Rodriguez looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, I'm just here to get you people to safety. The Admiral can answer your questions about fleet operations." As the rescue continued, human engineers swarmed over the destroyed colony. They worked with efficiency that impressed even the survivors who had lived among them for years. Within hours, temporary shelters were erected and power restored to essential systems. Dr. Chen found herself aboard a medical ship in orbit, receiving treatment for minor injuries and malnutrition. Through the viewport, she could see the human fleet spread across the system. But what caught her attention was the massive construction taking place near the outer planets. "Excuse me?" she asked a passing medical technician. "What's that structure they're building out there?" The technician glanced out the viewport and shrugged. "Above my pay grade, ma'am. But Scuttlebutt says it's something Admiral Rivera ordered constructed from salvaged Vorthak materials." On the bridge of the UES Retribution, Admiral Rivera was coordinating multiple operations simultaneously. The rescue was proceeding smoothly, but he knew the real challenge was yet to come. The Vorthak would not ignore the destruction of an entire fleet. "Sir," reported Commander Park, "we're receiving hyperspace signatures on long-range sensors. Multiple contacts bearing from the galactic core." Rivera nodded grimly. "How many?" "Still analyzing, sir. At least 300 ships, possibly more. Vorthak reinforcements?" "Yes, sir. Looks like they're bringing everything they have." Around the galaxy, intelligence agencies detected the massive Vorthak fleet movement. It was unprecedented, the largest military mobilization in recorded history. 300 warships, including vessels that had never been seen outside Vorthak space. The Galactic Trade Alliance called an emergency session. "The humans cannot possibly survive this," declared Director Vexhol. 300 Vorthak ships will annihilate their small fleet. "Perhaps we should offer them sanctuary," suggested another member. "Evacuate their people before the slaughter begins." On the Zephyrian Council world, the debate was more heated. "We should have helped them from the beginning," argued Councillor Yethka. "Now they will die because of our cowardice." "They chose to fight," replied the Prime Councillor. "We cannot save those who will not save themselves." But in the Kepler 442 system, Admiral Rivera was far from panicked. As the Vorthak reinforcement fleet approached, he opened a channel to all human ships. "All vessels, this is Rivera. Long-range sensors confirm incoming Vorthak fleet. 300-plus contacts. Estimated arrival in 4 hours." A pause. Then Rivera smiled. expression that would have chilled the Vortak to their bones if they could have seen it. All ships, implement Battle Plan Omega. It's time to show the galaxy what Phase 2 looks like. Across the human fleet, vessels began to transform. External armor plating retracted, revealing hidden weapon systems. Ships that had appeared to be simple cruisers unfolded into something else entirely. And at the center of the formation, the UES Retribution began the most dramatic change of all. The massive vessel split along hidden seams, revealing that it wasn't a single ship at all. Instead, it was a mobile construction platform carrying something that defied imagination, a partially assembled weapon system the size of a small moon. Dr. Chen watched from her medical ship as the human fleet revealed its true nature. "What are those things?" she whispered. Captain Rodriguez, who had remained to oversee the civilian evacuation, looked equally amazed. "Deployment platforms," he said quietly. "We've been working on them for 20 years. But I never thought I'd see them used. What do?" "They turn a fleet into a fortress, ma'am. A fortress with very big guns." The Vorthak reinforcement fleet dropped out of hyperspace exactly 4 hours later. War Marshal Corvex Prime, Supreme Commander of the Vorthak military, had brought every available ship. This human infestation would be crushed once and for all. "Scan the system," he ordered. "Locate the human ships." "Sir," his sensor operator replied, "we're detecting the human fleet near the 4th planet. But sir, there's something wrong with the readings." "Wrong how?" "The ships appear to have changed configuration. And sir, we're detecting massive power buildup. Energy levels are off our scales." Corvex Prime studied the tactical display. The human ships were arranged in a defensive formation around something large, larger than anything that should be possible. "What is that structure in the center of their formation?" "Unknown, sir. It appears to be some kind of weapon platform. But the size..." "Sir, it's larger than our command dreadnoughts." Admiral Rivera opened a communication channel to the Vorthak fleet. "Attention Vorthak vessels. This is Admiral Rivera. You are entering a human-controlled system. Turn around now or face the consequences." Corvex Prime laughed. "Human Admiral, you face the full might of the Vorthak Empire. 300 ships against your pitiful 50. Surrender now, and we may allow some of your people to live as slaves." Rivera's response was calm, almost conversational. "Marshal Corvex Prime, I believe you're operating under several misconceptions. First, this system is now under Earth protection. Second, we don't negotiate with those who attack human civilians. And third, the massive weapon platform at the center of the human fleet began to glow with barely contained energy. You're not facing 50 ships. You're facing the assembled fury of humanity itself." The platform fired. The beam that lanced out from the human superweapon was visible across half the system. It struck the lead Vorthak dreadnought and simply erased it from existence. The ship didn't explode. It vanished, converted to energy in microseconds. The beam continued through the Vorthak formation, destroying 7 more ships before finally dissipating. "Impossible," Corvex Prime whispered. Admiral Rivera's voice came over the communication channel again, and this time there was something in it that made even the Vorthak feel fear. "That was our primary weapon at half power. You have 30 seconds to begin retreat, or we will demonstrate what happens when humans stop being polite." War Marshal Corvex Prime stared at the empty space where 8 of his finest ships had been moments before. In 3,000 years of Vorthak expansion, nothing like this had ever happened. Their ships were supposed to be invincible. "All ships attack pattern Delta 7, he commanded, his voice betraying none of his inner fear. "Concentrate all fire on that weapon platform." 300 Vorthak warships opened fire simultaneously. The space around the human superweapon filled with energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic projectiles. It was enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. The human defensive grid absorbed it all. Admiral Rivera watched the enemy fire dissipate harmlessly against their shields. "Tactical, what's the status on Platform Alpha?" "All systems nominal, sir," reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson. "Primary weapon charged to full capacity." Fire. This time the beam that erupted from the platform was twice as powerful as the first shot. It carved through the Vorthak formation like a sword through paper, destroying ship after ship in a straight line. 12 vessels vanished in the space of 3 seconds, but the humans weren't finished. The smaller ships in their fleet, vessels that had seemed insignificant compared to the massive platform, began launching swarms of missiles. But these weren't conventional weapons. They were hunter-killer drones, each one equipped with advanced AI and powerful warheads. The drones flowed through the Vorthak formation like schools of deadly fish, seeking out the most heavily armored targets. When they struck, they didn't just explode, they burrowed through hull plating before detonating, maximizing internal damage. Corvex Prime watched in horror as his fleet died around him. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being destroyed by weapons he didn't understand. This wasn't a battle, it was an execution. "Sir," his communications officer called out. "We're being hailed by the Galactic Council." On screens across the galaxy, representatives of every major civilization watched the battle in stunned silence. The Zephyrian Council had patched their deep space sensors into the transmission, allowing real-time viewing of humanity's demonstration of military power. "This is impossible," whispered Prime Counselor Ithka. "The humans are annihilating the Vorthak fleet." In the crystal hegemony chambers, Prime Calculator Zerion 99 ran probability calculations that kept returning impossible results. The humans are achieving a kill rate that exceeds theoretical maximums for conventional weapons. Their technology appears to be several centuries ahead of galactic standards. The Aquatic Federation's representative floated in his tank, tentacles writhing with agitation. How long have they been hiding these capabilities? How many other primitive species possess weapons we know nothing about? On the battlefield, the slaughter continued. The human fleet moved through the Vorthak formation with surgical precision, targeting command ships and support vessels while leaving escape routes open for those smart enough to retreat. War Marshal Corvex Prime was not among those who chose to flee. Vorthak pride demanded he fight to the end, even against impossible odds. "All remaining ships ramming speed." "If we're going to die, we'll take some of them with us." The surviving Vorthak vessels, fewer than 50 now, charged directly at the human fleet. It was a desperate, futile gesture, but it was all they had left. Admiral Rivera watched them come. "All ships, defensive formation Gamma. Protect the medical vessels and rescue shuttles." The human warships moved to intercept the Vorthak charge. At point-blank range, their weapons were even more devastating. The charging enemy ships were torn apart before they could reach their targets. The last Vorthak vessel died in a ball of superheated plasma, taking War Marshal Corvex Prime with it. The battle was over. In the silence that followed, Admiral Rivera opened a channel to the entire galaxy. Every listening post, every intelligence station, every government building across known space received the same message. "To all galactic civilizations," he began, his voice calm and professional. "This is Admiral Marcus Rivera of the Earth Defense Fleet. The Vorthak invasion force has been neutralized. All hostile vessels have been destroyed. Human civilians on Kepler 442b are safe and secure." He paused, looking out at the debris field that had once been the galaxy's most feared military force. "Let this serve as notice to all who would threaten human lives. We protect our own. We will always protect our own. Earth extends the hand of friendship to all peaceful species, but we will show no mercy to those who harm human civilians." The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. On Kepler 442b, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the ruins of her research station, watching human construction crews work around the clock to rebuild everything the Vorthak had destroyed. The efficiency was remarkable. Within days, the colony would be not just restored, but stronger than before. "Dr. Chen," called a familiar voice. She turned to see Admiral Rivera approaching, having finally found time to visit the surface personally. "Admiral," she said, extending her hand. "Thank you. I can't find adequate words to express our gratitude." Rivera shook her hand warmly. "You don't need to thank me, Doctor. We're all human. We take care of each other." "But the cost," she said. "All those ships, all that effort just to save 23 people?" Rivera looked surprised. "Doctor, do you really think we'd calculate human lives in terms of cost-effectiveness? Every human life is precious. We would have sent the entire fleet to save just one person." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. She had spent years studying alien civilizations, trying to understand their ways of thinking. But perhaps she had forgotten what made humanity special. "Admiral," she said quietly, "how long have you had these weapons, this technology?" "About 20 years, Rivera replied. "Ever since we made contact with the galactic community and learned about species like the Vorthak." We knew someday we might need to defend ourselves. But you kept it secret, even from your allies, especially from our allies, Rivera said with a slight smile. The galaxy is safer when aggressive species underestimate peaceful ones. Today, every civilization will think twice before attacking humans, and more importantly, they'll think twice before attacking anyone else who might have hidden capabilities. In the days that followed, the political landscape of the galaxy shifted dramatically. The Vorthak Empire, which had terrorized dozens of worlds for over a millennium, simply ceased to exist. Without their fleet, their subject worlds rebelled. Their home planets were isolated and powerless. But the real change was in how other species viewed humanity. The Zephyrian Council sent a formal delegation to Earth, requesting a mutual defense treaty. The Crystal Hegemony offered to share their most advanced scientific knowledge. The Trade Alliance granted humans full membership with unprecedented privileges. Dr. Chen received a message from the newly formed Galactic Security Council, offering her a position as humanity's representative. It seemed the galaxy wanted humans involved in their decision-making processes. She accepted, of course. Someone had to make sure no other colonies would face what Kepler 442b had endured. Admiral Rivera returned to Earth as a hero, but he didn't enjoy the attention. He was a military officer, not a politician. He preferred to work behind the scenes, ensuring that humanity's defenses remained strong and their intentions remained peaceful. In his private quarters aboard the UES Retribution, now permanently stationed in the Sol system, he kept a recording of Dr. Chen's original distress call. He played it sometimes to remind himself why humanity built such powerful weapons. Not to conquer, not to dominate, but to protect. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never mistake kindness for weakness. Never assume that peaceful beings are helpless beings. And never ever threaten the civilians of a species that considers every member of their race to be family. Earth had spoken, and the galaxy listened. In intelligence offices across known space, files were updated. Humanity was reclassified from Category 3 minor power to Category Omega, do not engage under any circumstances. It was a designation that had never been used before. It would never be used again. Humanity stood alone at the top of the galactic power structure, not through conquest or aggression, but through the simple demonstration that they would do anything, absolutely anything, to protect their own. And in the depths of space, monitoring stations that had once tracked human ships with casual interest now followed their movements with respectful fear. The species that had once been dismissed as primitive had become the galaxy's unofficial protectors, whether they wanted the job or not. The age of human expansion was over. The age of human guardianship had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.